Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Girl Got Goals podcast. It's real talk from two women just trying to make it all work. Today we're talking about our recent girls trip to Orlando, where Kimberly and I attended the NPC Women's Workshop.
Good morning.
Good morning. We had so much fun on this trip, and I think that's kind of like the topic today. You know, we're going to recap our trip and just the time we spent together. But I learned during this trip that, you know, there's more ways to rest than just sleeping. You know, there's a book called Sacred Rest by, I think her name is Shonda Dalton. I read a while back, and there's 7 different types of rest, and it's not just sleep, it's not just physical rest, but you know, one of the types of rest is play and having fun, you know, and I think that's what we kind of accomplished on this trip. We learned a lot, but we had a lot of fun too. And that's a feeling that I haven't felt in a really long time. And I enjoyed it. And I want to start incorporating that into my daily life. And I think taking trips like this with your girlfriends is completely necessary once in a blue moon, at least, to kind of rekindle that fun and fire and zest for life.
Well, you know, I told you one time before that when I'm doing something, I like to make goals. I always like something ahead to look forward to. It just helps me in life. And that's why I like my calendar and stare at it like, oh, well, I get to go get my hair done on this day. I just get through this week. So sometimes I think if we plan trips, like I told you, when are we going to plan the next one? Even if it's a year away, it's like something you can look forward to, something you can just be thinking about, planning, just something excited for.
Yeah. I think we talked about in a previous episode, you know, I had a boss that did that. He had vacations scheduled every couple of months, even if it was just a small, you know, long weekend thing. And that gave him something to look forward to with his wife, with his kids, some with, some without, you know. And I think that's important for us too. And sometimes I know for me, life gets in the way. You know, you're so busy with the everyday mundane task and they take all of your time. It's hard to see past the forest for the trees kind of thing, you know, and budgeting the money, you know, with the economy like it is, money's tight for everybody. And traveling is expensive. I mean, and you almost feel guilty for spending that money when you don't have anything to show for it. But the memories that you make is something that nobody can take away from you, that you'll have for a lifetime. You know, the enriching of your soul, the rest, the relaxation. I think it's completely necessary for us to get away.
Well, you know, like you were saying, it like de-stresses. It's almost good for your health, you know, especially, I mean, it's good for us because you're busy all the time and we have things going on. But even for women with children, you know, sometimes it's nice. We always feel guilty, but to just get away. And we've talked about this, you know, in past before. If you don't take care of yourself and you're so stressed out, how can you be patient with them? How can you handle a crisis with them? How can you, you know, you have to energize yourself. And sometimes, you know, it might be a weekend away. It could be a night out with the girls, just something to get away, let loose with your friends, decompress, de-stress. And then you have enough of energy left for them, then, you know.
Yeah. I will say, you know, our trip wasn't without stress. We had our whole airplane debacle. Of course, the week before we are set to leave for Orlando, a freaking never before in our lifetime snowstorm hits Mobile, Alabama, 7.5 inches of snow.
In Florida, you know.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is beautiful. This is amazing. I'm loving this, but this needs to get out of here by Friday because I got a flight to catch. You know, flights were canceled. We're supposed to fly to that New Breeze Airways, you know, at Brookley Field. And then our flight kept getting delayed further and further and further. Then they had us leaving at like 11 o'clock at night, which I talked to somebody who knew somebody on that flight. It got delayed even further. They didn't leave till like midnight that night. And we had to be at the conference at 8 a.m. And I don't know about you, but I need my sleep.
Well, that's what I was worried about. And I was like, what are we going to do if we get there and they keep delaying it and then we don't make it? Then it's too late to make the decision to drive, or they might cancel it altogether. And then what are you going to do? I'd rather have just went ahead and went around that. So I just wasn't so stressed. I just couldn't imagine waiting until midnight and wondering if we were going to make it. That kind of stress was not what I needed.
I started stressing Thursday night, when we got the news. I almost couldn't sleep Thursday night. And then all day Friday morning, we were like, what do we do? Do we drive? Do we fly? Do we switch planes? What? We ended up flying out of Pensacola, which was cool. That was a cool little drive. I mean, it didn't seem like that long, especially we were yakking the whole time,
Yeah, and that part was nice too. Just a little mini road trip before we got on the front. I'm not really sure what that was. Can you call that a plane?
Oh man, that was the oddest experience of my entire life. We loaded from the ground, which I had never done before.
Me either.
We just walked out onto the tarmac, I think is what they call it, and loaded from the rear of the plane. And this plane has like popsicles and flamingos and beach balls and flip-flops. I'm like, what the hell? And Kimberly looked at me and said, well, I guess you're really my ride or die now. Either we're going to ride or we're going to die. Like one or the other. But that was a really smooth flight, though. The plane was kind of janky, but the people were super nice. It left on time. I think we even got there a little early. I mean,
I think so too.
Yeah,
it was. I mean, and for the money, that one wasn't. It was the trip back that got us.
Oh God, yeah. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that trip back. So we flew there on Frontier Airlines, which I had never flown before, but it was a super cool experience. I would definitely drive to Pensacola and do their flight again because it's just cheaper.
I'm thinking that's somebody's personal plane. They just got to rent out.
It's like an Airbnb for jets. Yeah. I wouldn't doubt it. That was crazy.
When we went down the escalator and you're like on the ground floor, I'm thinking, how are we going to get on an airplane down here? Because usually you're up high when you load them. I thought we fixing to get on some messed up stuff.
I already.
And then it wasn't even right out. We had to walk like it had parked out from the airport. We had to walk. I was like, what?
That was hilarious. I mean, and there, the guy behind us was like, well, I've never boarded from the back before.
And then there's like,
Kimberly said that's what she said.
We're not even talking about that.
Well, actually, we did talk about it all the way to Orlando. The poor guy in front of us, it was like a small plane. So it was like 2 seats and 2 seats. So we were together, but alone, except for there was one guy in front of us. It was kind of late and it wasn't, a hugely crowded flight. And as we do, every time we talk, we talk about anything and everything. I don't think there's a subject that's like off topic for us. So, of course, we talked about sex the entire time. I don't know how we got on the subject. I said this poor guy, he was older, so he didn't have in like earbuds like normal people do, whenever. I was like, I hope he cannot hear us. He probably heard every word.
He got educated if he did.
Lord have mercy.
But, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
We were talking about the little plane and walking out. Anyway, we made it.
I was talking about the steep steps. If you was a big girl.
The lady fell. Remember?
Yes.
Oh my God. It was hilarious, but not hilarious. Like her toe hit that top step and she face planted.
I was thinking, please don't let that be me. Please don't let that be me. And I'm holding luggage because I'm the only fool that brought carry-on. Marcy's just do with herself back there.
I'm having to hold bringing a carry-on, and I was like, yes. It's a backpack.
Your backpack don't count.
It does, because I have a purse. That's my personal item. And then my backpack is my carry-on. So I didn't know you were bringing a whole piece of luggage.
Oh, I did. And good
Thank
thing
God
I did.
You did. We'll get to that too. Yeah.
But I'm trying to hold it in front of me to walk up depths. It's though, I mean, it's that narrow. And I'm thinking, oh God, please don't let me face plant. Please don't let me face plant.
Me too. After watching that lady do it, did you see me pause at the top? Because I knew what step called
No,
her.
you was behind me.
Oh, I couldn't remember that. I paused and like took a big step up. Like I made sure my toe cleared that step. I was like, I'm not going to be that girl.
I couldn't see it because I'm holding my luggage in front of me. So I'm just like hoping for the best.
Oh God. I could just see you falling backwards and like catching the rest of us. So we make it to Orlando. It's freezing ass cold. We have the bright idea, instead of waiting for an Uber, just to hop in a taxi. And because my husband was like, you know, sometimes taxis and Ubers, he's like, he travels a lot. So he's like, they're about the same, you know, when you factor in everything, with peak times, this, that, and the other. But hell, that taxi trip was $70. I was like, what? And the guy was trying to roast us alive.
Oh my heavens.
This big older guy. He was not from here. He was obviously from some like island or something. He had on this big, huge puffy jacket, but he had on sandals. His toes were all showing. But we get in his taxi and all the windows are rolled down, but the heater's going full blast, which feels good when we get in because it's cold. But then he rolls all the windows up and he don't turn the heater down. I about died. And I was so worried the entire time that he was going to pass out because he didn't take his jacket off. He had on this big puffy jacket, and this man's like, huge.
Yeah. I'm texting Marcy like, I am about to die in here. And if anybody knows me, I'm not one to usually get hot. If I tell you I'm sweating, it's freaking burning up.
I'm the same way. I didn't think I was.
It had to have been 110 in there.
It was literally like sitting in the sauna when your face feels like it's frying. I always turn my GPS on wherever we're going so I can make sure that the Uber driver is going the right way and not trying to like traffic me or something. And so I'm like looking, I'm like, please, we got 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. I can make it 5 more minutes. I was like, why don't I just speak up and ask the man to turn the heat down? I mean, neither one of us was brave enough to ask him to turn the heat down. We were just texting each other, silently melting into the seats. I'm like, this trip already, you know. So we make it to the hotel. Everything's good. We get checked in, get to bed at a decent hour, 11 or so.
Well, you forgot.
Oh, God.
We couldn't find the room.
Because it was in a separate building. Yeah, so it's like a conference center and a hotel like attached. She's like, we have you guys in the tower.
Oh, yeah. When I booked it and it said tower, I thought, oh, we getting like this suite.
Yeah, we're in Trump Towers, baby. Whatever. And we like walk up and down this corridor. She's like, she said it was over down this hallway. I know we're in this hallway. We had to go back. Didn't we go back, or we asked some people that were working there?
Because we passed by like several times and there's no elevators. I'm like, she said it was down this hallway past the conference room. Where never in our wildest dreams did we think we had to go outside and across the parking lot to another building. Like that would have been helpful to tell us that. Don't just say it's down this hallway. Tell me I got to go outside.
And it was like 20 degrees. Oh my God, it was so cold. And we're lugging all this freaking luggage. Poor Kimberly, she weighs like $105 and she like has 2 suitcases. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so sorry for you right now. Yeah. Well, and the heat was out in the hotel, and a lot of girls we had seen in the group for the event had switched hotels because the heat was out and it was freaking freezing. And I really think our heat wasn't working that night because I slept in full pajamas, like long pants, long shirt, everything. And I never do that. We were talking about that before we started recording today. I always usually sleep in like a tank top and something. But I was freezing cold. And this blanket was like wafer thin. You know, it was like having 2 sheets on top of you. I about froze to death. But then
they had no thicker, usually they'll have like a thicker blanket. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
Everything was outside. Like it was almost like a hotel.
Like a resort.
Motel. It wasn't like you're inside going to your room. Not only did we have to walk across the parking lot and you get on the elevator, but when you get off the elevator, like you're outside walking to your room.
Yeah, there's like a whole atrium in the middle. which was beautiful. We're talking about it like it's a janky hotel. It was not. It was it was a resort. They had a heated pool. If I'd have known that, I may would have brought a bikini, and swam or whatever, but we didn't know
You're
that.
lying. It was cold as hell out there. We wasn't going in that pool.
There were people in the pool. We were so shocked the next morning at breakfast. We got up, like, we got to be down at breakfast at 7 a.m. That's when the cafe opens. They had a Starbucks in the cafe, which was fantastic. So I got my latte every morning. And then they had this fantastic breakfast bowl that we ate every morning. And I'm looking, and it's like 30 degrees outside, and there's people swimming. And they were kids. They were like, teenagers or whatever. And I'm like, well, I know that teenagers have a high tolerance for like temperature change, but this is ridiculous. But then the next day we saw like adults out there, and I was like, I had to ask somebody, and they were like, yeah, it's heated. I was like, oh, okay. So it was a nice place. Yeah. It was just, we didn't know what to expect, and the weather was not cooperating. But the next day was really, really nice. It was still cool, but the sun was shining. And the thing I loved about Orlando was you could walk everywhere. We ended up walking everywhere we went until the day we were leaving. Then we kind of Uber to the gym, and then from there an Uber to the airport. But
we did ride a bus that I paid $6 for.
Yeah, that's right. The trolley. They call it the trolley. And they said you could have an unlimited all day pass for $6. So we get on the app. We almost missed the trolley because Kimberly forgot to sign up for her day pass, and she's like signing up as the bus is pulling up. And he's like, no, it's free. And we're like, what? She had just bought her ticket. I bought my ticket. And he's like, no, it's free. But it ran between the two outlets, which we were on that International Drive or whatever it's called. So everything pretty much we needed was right there. I think the first night after the event, we walked to the Chili's or whatever and got dinner. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we walked the last night we were there, we walked 45 minutes to an amazing Italian restaurant and walked 45 minutes back. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, I think I got a nice conversation. On the way there, I was beginning to think, where is this place? But on the way back, everything always seems not as long on the way back, but it didn't seem as long. And then Marcy got this bright idea. We were going to go in this gift shop.
Oh my God.
That must be something about them foreigners, because they tried to roast us too. I had literally had sweat rolling down my back.
I had it between my boobs. I mean, it was just, I actually checked out and was about to walk outside when you came up, because I was like, I can't handle it in here anymore. Everywhere we went, it was hot. It was like, I guess they had never seen 30-degree weather before. When it wasn't even 30 degrees at this point, but it was like 85 inside. It was crazy.
It had to have been more than that. But your dumb tail had your jacket on. As soon as we walked in, I took my jacket off. I was like, oh no, I couldn't even hardly shop. It was that stifling. I was like, let me just pick something. I was trying to pick something for the grandkids. And, you want it to be the perfect thing. But I was like, finally just... and
grab something to go.
I was showing it to my coworker, but I was like, well, they really didn't have a lot for boys. I ended up just saying, well, I'm going to get them a shirt, because they have all this novelty toy stuff, and what Rylan got was a long sleeve shirt, and Bradley got a short sleeve. And she was like, so he got a winter shirt and she got a summer shirt. I like, look, they got what they got. It was hot in there.
It was survival at that point. Yeah. Well, I didn't want to take off my purse or my jacket and everything and then be holding it in my hands while I was trying to shop. And I was thinking, I know what I want. I'm going to go in here, grab these few items for my kids, and then be out. I didn't realize it was 85,000 degrees in there. Everywhere we went, the taxi, every store, everything, it was like 85,000 degrees.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went to the event. The next morning we ate breakfast. We got there early, which was awesome. I think, registration started at 8 and we were like in line at like 7:30, which surprisingly they had people there working. They were going ahead and signing people in. We signed up for the seminars that we wanted. And this event is a free event. It's put on by Sandy Williamson every year in Orlando. And it's the NPC, which is National Physique Committee Women's Workshop. And it's for anybody who is into physique sports, bodybuilding, or women. I'll say it's only women. They only take 500 women. That's the cap. And it's free, but you have to get a ticket. And luckily funny story. We got tickets. We thought we didn't, but we ended up getting them. So we tried to get them last year and we were too late. So it's like this year we were on high alert. Every Instagram post that came out about it, it's like, we got to be at this event. We got to be at this event. And we were stalking it. And it said the link opens at 12 p.m. or something like that. And
well, it just had the day, like, because remember that was the
night. Yeah, it just had the day. Yeah, that was it.
It was the night of my show. We thought it was stayed up till midnight trying to get it, and I was like,
I set an alarm. I know, because I usually don't stay up till midnight, but I set an alarm. You stayed up till midnight. Link was dead. There was like no getting through, and so we were like, bummer. You know, it's probably already sold out. We were thinking maybe this is rigged. You know, people that went last year get like first come, first serve for next year. I don't know. Anyway, we kind of deflated, you know, it was like, dang, we missed our opportunity again. Well, I was at the gym the next day. I think you were traveling back from your show and I was hitting legs.
I was getting ready for my pro show.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I was in the bathroom putting my makeup on. Uh-huh.
The next day, that's right. And I was hitting legs with Jimmy. And in between sets, if we're not talking, sometimes I'll just scroll Instagram or whatever. So I'm not looking at people in the gym because it was just weird. And it said something about link is open. And I think it was like 12:10 or something when I saw this. It opened at 12 p.m. noon, not 12 midnight. And so I was like, oh my God. I clicked on it immediately and I registered, and it would only let you register one person at a time or I'd have got yours too. But I logged on, I got my ticket, and I'm like texting Kimberly at the same time. I'm like, the link's live. We got to get our tickets. Get on right now, you know, and you apparently stopped everything you were doing. And
yeah. I was like, well, I'm getting ready for this show, but whatever.
And that was in September, right? Like right at the beginning.
September the 1st, I think.
Yeah, because September 2nd, we had bought plane tickets. I was like, we can fly Breeze. It was like $119 for the round trip flight, our bags, everything. I was like, man, that's almost just as cheap as driving by the time you pay gas for an 8-hour trip. That didn't work out. But anyway, so we registered for the event. We got there. They had different breakout seminars, which was amazing. They had that morning, we kind of walked around and looked at a bunch of vendors. They had different athletic wear and tanning supplies and suits and everything a girl wants to spend her money on, you know, jewelry. It was a lot of fun. So we shopped a little, and then had too much. But we got some great stuff though. I found a new brand that I really like. And then they had we were all together in the big conference room, and they had the speaker, Sid Gillian. She was amazing. Yes. She went over a lot of information. And then we kind of broke out into our morning sessions. And I think we learned a lot in those sessions. I don't remember which one. Oh, we went to the social media marketing one with Ashley Kaltwatzer and Laura Lee Chapatos. So Laura Lee is the current Miss Bikini Olympia, and Ashley K is she's been Miss Bikini Olympia in the past. I don't know how many times, but more than once.
Think 3.
3, yeah. She's the most winning bikini pro of all time with 50 pro wins. And so that was interesting to just see them as regular people in regular light, not on a stage, you know, with regular makeup, regular hair, regular clothes. And they're just talking about how they go about, you know, creating their content for their social media and their branding and filming themselves and the challenges that they face. And I think the one thing I took away from that was just be authentic and don't care so much about what other people think. Because I know a lot of times you and I talk about filming content because I know we like to see the way other people live their lives. And with this podcast, that's a part of your branding and a part of letting people into your life to get to know who you are is to film things because, you know, our society has gone beyond reading. They've now gone beyond listening. Now they're watching. Everything's a video. But the generation we come from, that's not really where we were authentically. And so I feel very inauthentic when I try to film myself. You know, I think, what are people going to think when they see me with my tripod set up in the gym, which we did the next day, you know, when we went to Iron Religion. And I would say it was a lot better with you there, to have a friend, to have somebody there, not just doing it by myself. I felt a lot more comfortable. You filmed me, I filmed you, which is so much better than a tripod having to be set
Yeah.
up, But that's what I took away from that social media and marketing seminar was be true to yourself, be who you are, be authentic, and be consistent.
I don't think that they talked about this exactly how I'm fixing to say it, but they said something that, and we've discussed this. Then I heard somebody else say it in another podcast the other day, which is something we have to think about all the time. So they were talking about, oh, if I feel like filming, I'll go and film. And even Laura Lee was like, talking about changing outfits. So when they make this content, they set aside several hours, and she's even going to change clothes. This isn't something they're doing every day. This isn't something that they're having to, put in their time schedule. They're filming all this content, and then they're just leaking it when they won't.
Right.
When they do photo shoots, when they're in the best shape of their life, they'll take 1,000 pictures in different outfits, and they put it out when they won't. And if you watch Ashley Kay, a lot of times she'll have like throwback, and she'll put, contest pictures and this. And that's where I don't do that, because I'm like, I've posted that. Nobody wants to see my stage picture again. I feel weird about like just putting myself out there all the time, but that's what they're doing. And so this other podcast, the girl was talking about, it's almost impossible to stay stage lean year round. There's only a handful of them that do. And she's like, believe me, they're not all the time. When you see them posting something and it looks like it's year round, those are pictures they have already taken, and they're just
recycle it.
Yeah. And so when we look at it, we're thinking, oh, they look like this all the time because they're posting this every day, and we feel uncomfortable in our skin because we're not. And
I would rather see them like they are now. I admire the pros that post their bodies along the way. I like to see how they reverse out of their diets and into their normal bodies. And I like to see how they get lean during a prep. I mean, even the nature cycles, we talked about seasons. You can't bloom all the time. Nature cycles, everything cycles. You can't stay at the height of your game all the time. You're going to go through phases, and that's more authentic and natural, I believe. And I think that if you don't post that cycle, then you're creating, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm in trouble finding my words lately. Unrealistic expectation, of other women looking at you all the time if you're constantly just posting your highlight reels.
And I will say this, I understand that it's kind of like how we used to tell our kids, do what I say and not as I do. Sometimes I feel that way, and I think that's the reason why sometimes we feel like imposters, and we've talked about that. I didn't reverse the best. I've never been good at reversing. That is something I struggle with. I know I need to work on that. I know I'm not where I should be. My thoughts are I'm on an attempt to get there after income tax. I'm working 6 days a week right now. I just don't think right now. And I got to think about this morning. I'm like, is this an excuse? Probably. I mean, because if I was in prep, and I have been in prep during income tax time, you just do it. But mentally and physically right now, I think it's best for me to just kind of be on a little more lenient with working so much. I mean, not only am I working at work 6 days a week, then I train somebody 2 days a week, and then I'm trying to go to the gym. I got to keep up my household. It's just so much mentally and physically. I'm trying to give myself grace and say, after that, then get on it. But I feel like if we see somebody make those mistakes, or they say, this is what we look like, it makes you feel better about yourself. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I want to know that other people struggle. And I think that they ride that fine line, because they're sitting there saying, you shouldn't, get off schedule. I mean, because even though they put it on, they're still reversing right and they're working on their metabolism and they're doing everything the right way. And they don't want you to see them mess up because then that messes up their platform.
Well, they have a brand image to uphold,
Yeah.
and I realize that. And they have probably contracts, which I know they for sure have contracts with certain brands that they're responsible for posting a certain amount of content to promote that brand and, such. And I get that. I get that you have a brand image to uphold. And like we talked about, recycling content is an easy way to be efficient with your time. You take a lot of pictures at one time and then let's spread them out throughout the year. I get that, but it like you said, it loses its authenticity. It's hard to connect with someone that you don't feel related to. And I think that's what you're saying, is that you can't relate to them staying lean like that all year long because you're unable to do it yourself, because of life's daily challenges. And I would say that that's probably true for most women. And I think that's what's important for us, you and I, in this podcast, is to be real, to be authentic, to be relatable, so that we can help other women who also struggle. Like I say in our opening statement, we're just two women trying to make it all work. That's finally what it boiled down to for us. We're just trying to make things in our life work out to serve us better. And
Well, I
it's
think
hard.
every year you get better and better at certain things, but it takes time. What we're doing and rearranging your whole life, especially when you have, some of these women are doing this with small children, and especially when you have small children and you are going on vacation with them, or you're having to do, parties with them, get their lunches. You can do it. I mean, when my grandbaby lived here and I was getting her, and I would just have to tell her no, I called it to her my special diet. And she began, even at 3 and 4 years old, she understood when I said I can't eat because I'm on my special diet. And time would go and she'd be like, well, I can't wait till you get off your diet so you can eat. Because we would stop and get ice cream or something, and I would get it for her. And she would ask me, and I'm like, well, I'm still on my diet. Well, I can't wait till you get off. But she began to understand when I could and when I couldn't, even as a small child. But it is hard because you want to do those things. It's strange how they want you to eat it and you want to be able to enjoy it with them. That's weird how we work like that, that you want to enjoy ice cream. But
Yeah.
that happens, and you don't want to feel restricted all the time. But when I come from, and I think we've discussed that, unless you grow up, talking about Sid, her mother was a pro. And she talked about her mama taking her to the gym. And remember when we were in the reverse diet, and how she said, somebody asked about how she helps cravings. And she said, well, you'll have to ask, and I don't remember the girl's name, you'll have to ask somebody else because I don't have cravings. I think that comes from that you never ate stuff like that. But I was junk food junkie. Before I started this, that's all I ate. I'd rather sit down with a bag of potato chips than you give me any vegetables.
Oh, girl, potato chips and dip was my meal sometimes. I could put down a whole 2 cans of French onion dip on a big bag of Lay's when I was a teenager. That was nothing for me to make that dinner.
Yeah. And even when my kids were little, or Carrie would go to the hunting camp and my kids were at their dad's or something, when I'm at home by myself, I have cooked all week. I don't want to cook. I don't want to do anything. I could go in there and grab a bag of potato chips and just eat this, or pop some popcorn and watch TV and go to sleep. I didn't want to go in there and fix myself something. So to undo all of those bad habits, that don't happen overnight. And I think that's where sometimes, when I said, we've talked about before, not looking at other people. This has been a 7-year journey for me, and I think like 3 or 4 for you. And we still struggle with certain things. Some of the stuff gets easier, and then some of it we're still work on. You
Yeah.
don't take those habits and overnight we just said, oh, we don't do that no more.
Yeah. And
Work on that.
when we started talking about this topic, that reverse dieting seminar automatically popped into my head when she was talking about staying on your diet in family situations during holidays. You know, we celebrate with food, and we've talked about this before. And some people want to pressure you into eating. Oh, well, it won't hurt you just to eat this one time, or, you know, navigating that pressure. People, you know, peer pressuring you to eat and everything when you have nutrition goals. And that spills over into your everyday life. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine at the gym in the bathroom the other day. And isn't that funny how that's what, like, you always run into the people in the bathroom and then you're standing there for 30 minutes, like talking while people wash their hands around you. Anyway.
And then Carrie's always standing outside, and I come out and he'd be
Yeah.
like, Jimmy
texted me
or
He's
something.
like, where are you? I didn't see you anywhere. I was like, I was talking in the restroom anyway. But she was talking about how she's been working out really hard and she's been trying to watch what she eats, and now she's trying intermittent fasting again, you know, and it just seems like nothing's working or whatever. And I'm like, well, you really have to, this is what I've learned so far, you know, and I'm a work in progress, just like everybody else. You really have to learn that food is not fun. Food is fuel. Mm-hmm. We grew up enjoying food, and that's what she looked so downhearted for a second. She's like, oh my God, that's my happy place. You know, we get to the point in our lives where it's just easier to eat the junk, or it's the only bright part of our day. You know, when you're going to work and you're doing carpool and you're doing this and you're doing that and you're trying to, you know, it's like all the shit you have to do all day, every day. Your meal is your one happy place. You know, it's like that little dopamine hit several times a day where you get this bright relief from the mundane. And that's what it was for me. You know, I'd be eating breakfast, planning lunch, you know, because like those vacations that we talked about scheduling and looking forward to, I planned my meals, you know, to look forward to. And that's a habit that I'm having to break now in order to be able to stick to my special diet, you know, to be able to reach my goals.
When I have hard leg day, I'll be in there sometimes, and I don't go in thinking about it, but once I'm in there and my butt's on fire and I think about how hard I'm working, I'm like, oh, what am I going to eat after this? I need something to fuel this. Last night, I ate a double cheeseburger from Culver's. It was good, girl. And I was like, but I need this protein.
Booty gains.
My butt is still on fire, should I say. I mean, I've gotten to the point working butt 3 days a week. My butt hurts just sit on it at work.
Yeah.
I need them.
And you do have to fuel your body properly for the amount of activity, you know, and the goals that you have. But when you're in a fat loss goal, those double cheeseburgers are not going to be your friend. Yeah. And then the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And I think we get into a habit of where we're comfortable. We may even drop our calories a little bit or change our food choices a little bit, but it's still like within our comfort zone of what we can still consider comfortable and enjoy. But during this health phase that I'm in now, I know we've talked about this a little bit. I've only been on it a few weeks. I've had to drop my calories and I'm hungry. Not all the time, as in every hour of the day, but I'm hungry portions of the day, every day, and I'm going to bed hungry every night. You know, that is not freaking comfortable because my mind is like, you're hungry, you need to eat. And it almost becomes like this biological drive, like, I feel like I'm going to starve to death. Girl, you ain't fitting to starve to death. You know, you could go, Jesus went 40 days without food. You know, you're not going to die. You know, if you eat less calories, your body is going to be in a deficit. Duh. It's what it's supposed to do. You know, that's how the hunger cues are, how your body's telling you that you are in a deficit, you know, and I'm having to get around that. And I think that's the problem a lot of us have is we have a certain way of thinking. We have certain patterns. We all want to feel comfortable. And so when it comes to reverse dieting out of a show, your hunger cues are off. Those urges are strong. I can relate to that. Even though I haven't been there like they have been, I'm dealing with that now, just coming off of, 2 months of pretty much eating whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to through the holidays, just to kind of give my metabolism a break. And now I'm back to a meal plan with 1,800 calories and less, on certain days. I'm hungry. And, and that is a hard place to be mentally, especially when you're not seeing the scale move a whole lot. It's like if I was losing a steady pound a week or, something crazy to keep me motivated, that would be easy. But when you're busting ass every day and going to bed hungry every night and you see the scale go up a pound, that's a different level. But I will say that was Wednesday. We talked about that Wednesday. I was all flustered and down with myself. But then, my coach changed me to carb cycling to where I have 2 low days and a high day, 2 low days and a high day. So I'm cycling with that. And I came off a high day yesterday and I weighed 148 this morning. So I've lost 2 pounds since Wednesday, and it's just like, okay, now something's moving, something's working, I'm seeing progress. And you were telling me Wednesday, trust the process. And I think a lot of times I'm getting to a point here. I think a lot of times in everyday life, we as women, up the intensity of our exercise and cut the calories and then expect an overnight success, or we get hungry and we make a small allowance here, a small allowance there, and a little snack here and a little snack there. And you don't think that it adds up. And when you're not being consistent, and it does add up. And like
Or
I
when
told,
you do like I just did, I wanted to throw that disclaimer. That's not something that everybody can do all the time. I am trying to eat in a surplus on leg day so that I have the calories to move the weight I'm moving. I don't move a small amount of weight. And if I don't eat the carbs and eat the protein afterwards, I've got to be in that surplus to put on the muscle. If you don't know when to do that and when not to do it, I know some people will go work out and then it's somebody in a trying to be in a fat loss and they'll work out and be like, oh, well, I can eat now because I worked out. It don't work that way.
Right. I did that for the longest time. I thought, oh, I'm working so hard in the gym. I'm burning so many calories. I can go eat like an asshole. But guess what? You ain't burning that many calories. Yeah. And your body is not going to assimilate that food immediately. It's not going to go straight to your booty and straight to gains. It's not going to happen. And that's what I ended up telling her. I was like, I eat the same thing every day. It's measured out. I know exactly how much food, how many calories, my macros, everything to a T. And I eat the same thing every day over and over and over and over and over until you get sick of it. I mean, not that I don't enjoy my meals because I do. And girl, when I'm hungry, I told my husband, I was like, it's amazing what a plain rice cake can taste like when you're hungry. I mean, you're hungry when you're eating a rice cake and it tastes like the best thing you ever put in your mouth. And she was like, oh my
I've said
God.
that before. When I'm on prep, I can eat a rice cake and it's almost like candy. Yeah. And then I'll think, oh, these are great. I'm going to incorporate these in off season. Then off season, I eat it. And I'm like,
styrofoam.
It's good, but it's like, this don't taste the same. Even honey. The first time I had honey on a rice cake when I was in prep, I was like, oh, I can do this. That whole thing of honey's still in there because no, I can't. It's just because you haven't had anything like that in so long.
Right. When you're hungry, the food is good, and you find ways to eat it. It's a trial and error process. My meal prep, every week I'm improving a little bit better and better with the way I cook things, making it kind of faster and easier, how to measure things, get it proportioned out right. And then the seasonings,
Oh, did
when
you
you
get some pizza seasoning?
I did. I was going to talk about that too. So in the reverse dieting seminar, Sid and Andrea gave us a tip on the Trader Joe's pizza seasoning. And so I ordered some, and girl, it is good. You can get it on Amazon, or if you have a Trader Joe's, then you can get it there. But it makes things taste like pizza. So they were talking about pizza being their favorite food, which it's mine. It's one of my favorite cheat meals, but I can't have that right now. So what I'm doing is I have deer meat, as my lean ground beef or whatever. And I'm cooking that deer meat in that pizza seasoning. It's just a dry seasoning. So there's, nothing in it. And then I have the no sugar added marinara. Well, I mean, it's just like a tablespoon, it's nothing, just to make it a little wet. And then she wanted me putting a tablespoon of coconut oil in that meal. And then I'm eating it instead of with rice all mushed up. I'm eating it on rice cakes. So it's almost like having a pizza. So the rice cake is like my crust and the meat is like my pizza, or it kind of tastes like spaghetti, or whatever. It's very similar. But it's things like that, it's like I'm not hating my meals. Is it like going to Nukes and eating a pizza? No. But I can't do that right now. And that's okay, because that's what I'm choosing to do. I have goals, And
Right.
so I'm enjoying my meals, and that's become one of my favorite meals, which I didn't think in the beginning that it would, because the first week I just ate plain ground deer burger with rice. And let me tell you, it was not my favorite. I had to choke it down. It was just like, ugh. But, then I heard that tip about the pizza seasoning, and it's just things like that you can learn over time, tweak it until it makes something that you really enjoy eating. And that's like Ashley Kay said, she's been doing this so long and she's so consistent that she's like, I don't ever cheat anymore because I like my prep food, and I think it's just because she has been in it so long that she maybe forgot what real food tastes like, or she just doesn't crave it anymore. And like Sid Gillian said, some people out there are blessed like you were, when you said, I don't really care about food, you did eat junk food for convenience or whatever, but you weren't like me where it was kind of like an addiction, where I craved it. And it was, I wasn't eating for fuel. I was eating for fun. And that's an addiction. That's dopamine response. That's bad habits built over time. I wasn't born like that, because I wasn't like that as a kid or whatever. It developed. And so I think when you're struggling with your meals, you just have to make it a mental resolution that I have a plan and I'm going to stick to my plan regardless of how I feel about it at the time, and just make it something that's more enjoyable, because you do get used to it. And I will say also, over the past couple of weeks, my digestion is so good. Like my skin has cleared up and my digestion is so good. And I feel, even though I wasn't eating crappy before, I was eating good things, but they were processed, like the egg witches, Well, who knew? I didn't even read the box because I thought it was just eggs and turkey sausage. It has cornstarch in it. And corn is one of the foods that's like highly sensitive to a lot of people, like soy, wheat, corn, whatever. And like the fillers that come in protein bars, I haven't eaten a protein bar, in several weeks or whatever. It was just certain things like that. Like they were better, healthier choices, but they weren't really better or healthier for me because my system's so sensitive. So now that I haven't eaten them in a while, if I eat one, I can feel the difference. Mm-hmm. And it actually made my stomach hurt. And I was like, remind me never to eat this again. Like, I don't even want this anymore, because I feel so good now on my new diet, my new plan, which is just whole foods, that I don't, not that I don't want to have a cheat meal or whatever, because I do, but, I don't want to eat that on the consistent basis anymore. I don't want to go back to feeling like that anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's what I told Carrie. There are times that, like when I ate the hamburger last night, I didn't eat nothing on it. So, it's just the meat and the bread. I did get cheese this time because I don't eat cheese when I'm on prep, and I don't eat it most of the time anyway. So I was like, whenever I can splurge a little bit, and off season I like too, you know, so I did go ahead and get the cheese last night. But that's all that I ate on it. But if I go somewhere, well, like I told you, you know, even the Kind bars, I like them, but they make me feel bloated. There's not too many of those protein bars that I can eat that don't make me feel afterwards. And so I get to where I just don't want it. And there's certain snacks that I'll do like that. Oh, I want to eat this. And then afterwards I'm like, oh,
Why did I do that?
Yeah. I've even gotten to where, I like lemonade, but I ordered a lemonade the other day and I was like, I can't even drink it. So I asked them last night, do y'all have sugar-free lemonade? He was like, no. I was like, okay, never mind. No drink. Because I don't need all that sugar and it just makes me feel terrible after I eat it. And then I regret it. Yeah. So I'm trying to remember how that regret feels and just choose not to do it. And then I'm like, you just went and worked your butt off and you're so excited about the gains. And why? Because you're not even going to enjoy it. But that takes a lot. I didn't get there overnight to choose not to do that. Don't get me wrong. And then my coach texted me, girl,
that was so sweet.
I know. I was with a customer and they come up on my watch, you know, how are you, Kim? And I looked down and it's from him. And I was like, what? Oh my God. You know, and then he sent the next message and you were talking about, you know, putting yourself out there. I was thrilled that he, you know, did my transformation and the sweet comments he said. But do you know that for a little bit, I was like, oh God, that is so embarrassing. I looked horrible. Why would I even want to look like that? And then I'm looking at it and I'm like, isn't that so weird that all of this was underneath this? Like, it wasn't that I built that muscle in that 6 months. It was that was up underneath all of this fat.
Oh, that reminds me. I was listening to the Girl Gains podcast with Amber P and Alexis Nicole. Okay. Yeah. And I love their podcast. Go listen to it. But they were talking about, I'm pretty sure it was Alexis was talking about like uncovering what's underneath, you know, like a sculpture. And, you know, every time you turn away from one of those mental cravings, you know, and you stick to your plan, it's like you're a sculptor and you're chiseling away at a rock. Because, you know, all sculptures start as like one big block of whatever the material is. And then they just chip away to reveal the beauty underneath. And that's what made me think when you said that, it's like we all are beautiful goddess sculptures underneath. We all have this beautiful anatomy, these muscles underneath that we can show if we choose to take the time, the love, the attention that a sculptor would give his art, you know, and chisel away at what no longer serves us. And those mental cravings, they're tough, man. I was laying on the couch last night watching TV and I stayed up a little bit later than normal because it was a weekend, you know, I didn't have to get up early or whatever. So my meal times, you know, after 2 hours, I started getting hungry. After about 3, I'm real hungry. Well, it had been 3 hours since my last meal. So it was like after 10 o'clock, I was real hungry. And everything inside of me wanted to go to that refrigerator and grab something to eat. You know, even though it was something healthy, I was just thinking just something protein, just some chicken, just some eggs, you know, whatever. But that's not on my plan. And then all my data would be off. You know, then I would have garbage in, garbage out. My calories would be off. I'd have to tell my coach. You know, and that was one thing that I was like, I really don't want to have to tell her that I cheated on my diet. You know, even though it wasn't a burger and fries or ice cream, it was still cheating because I wasn't eating what I planned. And I sat there and fought with myself for probably a good 20 minutes. But then the urge passed, you know, and I told myself, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm not going to be hungry anymore. And then I'll get to eat breakfast. So it's not that big of a deal. You're not going to die. You know, I'm having like this whole monologue in my head. But
That
that
part does make me want to go. I've told you that before where I fight that the longer I stay up when I'm on prep, the worse it is because then, or if I wake up, I tell Carrie, don't get my body woke up because soon as my body wakes up, if it's 4 o'clock in the morning and I get up to go to pee, you can't talk to me. Let me stay in sleepy mode because then my stomach wakes up and I can't eat at 4. I'm scheduled to eat at 8.
right. And you
Because if I
starve.
eat at 4, then it's gonna, because everything's timed out. So that's why I've told you I've taken sleeping pills. Girl, if I can't fall asleep at night and I'm starving, I'm like, let me go take a sleeping pill because I need to go to sleep so I won't be hungry.
Yeah. And we're not advocating you drugging yourself not to eat.
No.
She has trouble sleeping anyway. And she just have like
Yes.
an overactive mind and she would just lay there at night thinking about it.
Yes.
Want to clarify that for you.
Yes, let me clarify that. It depends, if because I have hypothyroid, and so depending on where I'm at with that, if it's off whack, I can't sleep. I'll get insomnia, and when you stay up all night like that, your body is up, and then your digestion is going. Now you're hungry, so
Yeah. No
that's why
good things come
folks-
from not sleeping, period.
no. Well, and not to mention, then you're not your body's not recouping, and I'm not resting. We've went there. We went all off. We were talking about
I
our
know.
girls
Having
trip.
fun and girls. Okay. So bring it all back. We did the seminar. Wonderful. It was a volunteer event. So many people volunteered their time and talents, which made my heart just expand that these women spent their entire weekend and all this money to travel there and stay there to put this on for us, to pour into us. We learned so many valuable things and connected, on so many different levels. I wish we would have branched out and met more women while we were there. You and I are very shy. We don't really speak unless spoken to. We knew each other. We were very comfortable with each other. So we kind of did our own thing the whole weekend. We didn't really go out of our comfort zones and reach out to more women to like network and get to know them. I will say that the week headed into it was really stressful. We got there late. We were tired. I drank 4 coffees that day, which was like a record for me. 4 lattes was a lot. But, I really wish, and next year, if we go, which I hope we do, I really want to work on reaching out and talking to more women that I don't know and trying to get to know more people because I think
Yeah.
that's very important and things like that.
I think the way that a little bit of the weekend went, though, because, we signed up and then we shopped. And if you were alone, you would probably be seeking out someone to speak to when you're shopping. But because we were together, it's not like there was, and then you sat down and there was a seminar and then you did the breakout sessions. So I will say a little bit of the way that it is planned out, in my opinion, made it a tad harder to meet people unless technically you were by yourself and you were in a class and somebody else is and you just kind of like, hey, you know what I mean?
Right. Because you were all sitting down forward facing, listening to a speaker. There's not really any engagement.
Right. Now, the only other thing that we could have did, which I didn't think benefited us in a way, well, I shouldn't say didn't benefit us, but there was a group chat on Instagram and a lot of the girls, but there were a lot of them that were going by themselves, but a lot of them were going down there like early Friday where we didn't. And they were meeting up and going to the gym. Hey, I'm going to get a workout, but they were by themselves. So they were meeting other girls there for a workout. And that could be nice, but not nice because when I work out, I don't know how this person's going to work out and I don't know you. So now we're kind of talking. I feel like that would have hindered my workout because I'm so like in my zone when I work out. And me and you kind of jived, but we know each other. So when we were doing our workout, it just worked. If you were meeting somebody new, that part would have been hard. I'd rather meet to go to dinner to get to know that person. That's just a personal,
and we got
thing.
late Friday. Most people, like you said, left Thursday and had all day Friday. We stayed later because our flight wasn't coming back till Monday. So we had all day Sunday and most of the day Monday.
Yeah, and I think most of them left Sunday. So we were just kind of like backwards from what some of those ladies were. So that part made it awkward.
Yeah. maybe next year we plan on going a little earlier. But it just made it easy over the weekend. I didn't really have to take off work or anything. I just
Right.
worked remotely or whatever. And so, but yeah, that was one thing. And then I know we're almost out of time, but my highlight of the entire trip, other than the conference itself, because that was amazing and that was the whole point we went, was going to Iron Religion, catching the trolley to the gym, and having that gym was so much fun. And that's where, we started out talking about, the whole topic of this podcast is, having fun and rekindling your fire for adventure. We got into that place and I was like a kid on a playground. There was machines in there I had never seen before. And although I felt intimidated and awkward because this is a bodybuilding gym, there are serious bodybuilders in there. And there were a lot of pros from that seminar who had spoke the day before who were actually in there posing clients and working out themselves and stuff. So here I am walking up to a machine, looking at it like, I've never seen this before. And we're trying to figure out the adjustments on it and like, how do we even do this? I felt like an idiot half the time, but at the same time, it was so refreshing. I had a lot of fun with you that day, working out and trying the different gyms. And I was like, I want to do that in our regular lives. I want to go, to like different gyms. Like there's Mississippi Muscle. And then there's this one I just found on Facebook in Gaucher called the Steel Mill. They have a powerlifting place, like a room or whatever, and they call it the dungeon, and just stuff like that just sounds fun to me, just trying different new things.
Well, and that's, our thing. You could have, I know friends that, like to go like to wine tastings or, different places to shop, or you can make a day trip like we were talking about to go work out. It doesn't have to be an overnight trip to spend a whole lot of money, just as long as you are reconnecting with those friends and strengthening your bonds with them. And like you said, it releases stress and you get a break from your day. And I think it just re-energizes. But I had wrote down, I haven't done this, but I've always wanted to do this, but I like to dress up. Carrie could care less. But whenever he has a work function or this, I like to dress up and go do it. I'm always overdressed when we go places like that because I want to wear some of my dresses that I've bought, So you could dress up and go to dinner, and if you go to somewhere that's expensive, well, it costs twice as much when you go with your husband. And half the time he could care less to dress up. But if you go with a friend, you're just paying for yourself.
Right.
So, get dressed up all fancy, go out to somewhere to dinner and, act like you the $1 million wife.
Right. Be someone else for the night. That would be fun. Come up with aliases.
I think we need to do that.
Yeah. And we got to know each other really well, even though we've known each other for, almost 2 years now. Yeah, because we had just met right before my first show and you had came to my first show and that was 2022?
Has it just been 2 years?
Yeah. So it's only been 2 years, but there were things we didn't know about each other. I had never really
feels
heard.
Like it's been a lifetime.
You've been stuck with me forever. But yeah, there was just conversations that you don't have time to have anywhere else when you get alone. I think women need that camaraderie, and that bonding and that sharing.
Well, and, if you've got that friend that, we dove deep, especially on that 45-minute walk there and back. First of all, it was exercise. And then after we got to eat and we felt, so it was nice to walk that off. And we talked about, childhood, what made us the way we are, we went off on these paths and, it helps you know who that person is and why they are the way they are. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but it helps me understand, like when you start texting me Wednesday, bitch, You are
Yeah.
stop.
That was just a spiral for me,
And
and
I could tell you did not even answer my 2 page of how you should be. And you're like, you answered the next question and that was it. I was like, oh, she is in her feelings and no, you're not.
yeah. Yeah. I'm a
And
verbal processor, and that was my way of verbally processing, even though it was a text message. I was in a shame spiral.
well, and I will say sometimes I'm not good at being forthcoming and I'm trying to be better because I know you appreciate it, but at the same time, I can tell you were processing it. There's still that, even though it's been 2 years, it takes time to know people because sometimes we don't let people in. And I think we did that weekend. And I was like, okay, she's got to understand where I'm coming from. I love you and you are so good. We've talked about this before about uplifting other women and, thinking other women are beautiful and, oh, they look great and just positive. You do not ever let me feel down on myself. But if I try to lift you up, it's like, I was like, no, ma'am, no, ma'am.
I'm in the data at that point. I'm in the math isn't mathing. Something is off. I still have so much PTSD from the past trauma of not being able to lose weight that when I gained a pound from my last check-in, it was like, all that trauma all over again. So I just hit this big shame spiral. But
that's one reason why I was like, I know it sounds dumb and I hate the phrase, trust the process.
Trust the process. You told me that. And at the moment, I hated to hear it. I was like, that's so freaking cliche. I can't trust the process because the process is not fucking working,
But then when your coach sent back and literally when she outlined, the fullness of your muscle, you could see that. And all she did was draw a freaking line. I was like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. And
this is why she's paying her. This is why she's the coach because they have that eye, and it was like I was trying to say, there's this whole reason behind it. She's got to get your body. And, I've had my coach change mine and like, I don't move that week or whatever, or it might go up. And then they're like, okay, well, we're going to stay at that for another week. Cause then your body like levels out. It's like sometimes when they up the food or give you different food, it takes a week for your body to adapt to it.
Right.
And I have been on a plan before, like don't lose anything, lose a half a pound, blah, and then by the 4th week of eating the same thing, drop 2 pounds. And it's like, what? So that's that trust the process. And that is such a hard phrase.
It is.
But it was the only thing that I knew at that time to be like, okay, this.
I do in my head. I do. Yeah.
So, but it was like, I know she knows this, but sometimes you just have to have somebody like say the thing. Although I know she's going to be cussing me.
Yeah. It's just,
I could feel
it when you work so hard, and you're completely 100% on plan. Like that's hard for me. It's hard for me to be completely 100% on plan all the time because I love food so much. And so I was so super proud of myself for checking all the boxes that week. And then when I felt like I looked worse in my pictures, and the scale hadn't moved, but and then I was like, Marcy, we didn't even go into this in a fat loss phase. We're not even in a fat loss phase. We are trying to find your maintenance calories. Mm-hmm. You have maintained. Therefore, you are successful. It's like, what are my expectations? And I told Jimmy, I was like, I'm just going to have to adjust my expectations because I'm in a health phase right now. I am eating whole foods. I'm getting my plan under control. I'm rebuilding my gut health. I'm undergoing some medical testing. This is not a fat loss phase. So why, as women, every time we step on the scale, do we think that mofo has to go down? That's not reality. That's not success for me right now because that's not even my goal. So I'm like, get out of your freaking head. I think it's for so long. I after prep, it was just like lose weight, lose weight, lose weight, lose weight, lose weight, get leaner, 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 and so that every time I check in, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the lines. I'm looking for the muscles. I'm looking for the reduction of the cellulite. And it's a
And
lot.
that's what I was, just trying to say. She's trying to get to know your body. She's got to start somewhere and give you so many
Yeah.
calories just to see how you respond. It's got to take her time. And I was like, Marcy,
This is my first check-in.
it's been 7 days.
And you and Jimmy are probably like, you're fucking ridiculous right now. But that's me. I'm a very intense person. I'm a very all or nothing kind of person. I'm a very my mind moves fast, therefore my results need to move faster, kind of person. And
Not Amazon.
No, girl, I wish fitness was like Amazon. I could just order it to my door next day delivery. But it's the one
that's
thing.
like when I'm deep in prep and I'm texting you, and Carrie, bless his heart, you try to be like, yeah, I can see a little bit, or, and he's like, I don't know, I see you every day. But
That's what Jimmy says. I can't see any changes.
And I don't see anything, and I'm like, oh my God, didn't nothing change? And you're freaking out. So I get it, because it's hard sometimes for us to see the small changes. But at the end, it all comes together. So, I mean, I got it. But at the same time, I was trying to be like, okay, Marcy, you got to give it time. You got to give her time.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to give yourself that grace that you give everybody else, though, But anyway, so we learned a lot about each other.
We did. Which is important. Oh, too much. We're not going to go into that, but Kimberly got to hear the story of my 4 marriages, so that was a lot to take in.
But, gist of this was we had a good time, get away with your friends, enjoy life. But I will say, I have to say this. I was actually looking up stuff about girl trips and getaways. And do you know I found where there was a study that Harvard Medical did. And it said, it was girls' trips relieve stress, which can affect your coronary arteries and gut function and so many other things. And that they published this article that found that the lack of strong relationships increased their premature death by 50%.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I mean, it makes sense because we all need interaction. They talk about, the hermit that's over here or the old person. And as soon as you take that old person and put them into doing activities, their health increases. So that makes sense. But we don't think about that as mothers and women and wives, that we still need to do that before we get to that crippling age, that in between, to make time to, enjoy our friends and make those bonds.
Yeah. Used to, in society, that was just built into your everyday life. People were very connected to their extended families, even with grandparents living in. So you may have had your mother or your mother-in-law living with you, or aunts or uncles or something. And then you had your worship communities. A lot of people did attend church, and they had probably attended church, the same church, their entire lives. And they had, my grandmother, is still going to the same church they did all those years ago that my parents were married in. And she's been there, I don't know, 60 years or so now with the same people. Different people come and go, but you get what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And you had your social groups, and you had, your kids growing up, you got to know their parents, all this was built into society to where my grandmother had several good friends that they would have coffee every day, or they would take walks, or they would garden together, and they would go motorcycle riding on vacations. And she had all these really good friendships that she had built when she was young that she still has to this day. And that is not my story. In today's age, I don't attend a house of worship anymore, so there's not that community. I do have work, so you do have work friends because you get to be friends with people you spend time with every day. But I think I'm getting at is that you have to be more intentional about building your tribe. And as women, we take care of everybody else. We don't have anybody to take care of us, but that our tribe should be that for us. We should build a circle of trust, and it could just be one or two people, it doesn't have to be a lot of people, but you need one or two people that you can connect with that can support you and just become that person for you that can alleviate a lot of loneliness and stress in life. Mm-hmm. That's for men and women.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, my husband goes to the hunting camp every weekend. And a lot of times he might be, very seldom is he up there by himself. Now, he might be in the camper by himself, but, his dad's up there and he'll interact with him. It's getting, if nothing else, though, it's getting away. He's decompressing by getting away from the house. You're not having all of the duties in your face that you have to do. Where even though I'm off today, do you know how hard it is to go sit down? Because I'm like, well, I need to do this. I need to do that. It's not getting away. When we got away, it was like you're not thinking about those things. That's why I even told you I wanted a weekend for me and him to go away after hunting season. I was like, we could stay home for the weekend, but then you feel like you should be doing something.
Yeah, cooking, cleaning, everything else needs to be done around the house. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm away at a hotel, don't matter if we stay in bed and order room service. I'm not having to think about the house. It would be hard to stay in bed here and order pizza in. Yeah, you could do that. But you're still stressed by your environment.
Yeah.
And I think just the getting away for that one night just makes you feel re-energized.
Yeah. I think we should host next year a women's retreat. I think that would be so much fun to get our listeners together and plan a weekend and go somewhere, and stay for the weekend and do fun things. Yeah. I see other people do it. Of course, they're like, social media influencers. So they have like a big following, unlike us.
There'll be 3 of us.
Yeah. Hey, you got to start somewhere though. But I always admire that. I mean, they're going places like Bali and, cool tropical places or whatever. I mean, we can go to Destin for all I care. It doesn't matter to me, Mm-hmm. But I think that would be cool like once a year host like a women's retreat and just have it be fun, just a fun weekend getaway.
I'm down.
Maybe it's something we put on our vision board.
Always down for a trip. Because you get to, well, that's what I was saying. He gets to get away. I don't think they have to necessarily talk about their stress in lives like women do. I feel like sometimes, yeah, we need to discuss. And honestly, I don't think that you and I do it a lot, but there are occasions, it might be like, girl, let me tell you what he did. Or, like we need to talk about what's going on. Or like, does your husband do this? You just have to have that camaraderie and it just makes you feel better. Okay, well, mine's not the only one that does that. It's just.
Yeah, it makes you feel more normal. It's like, oh, I thought I was the only one that did that. Thank God I'm not. I'm not crazy after all.
Yeah. I don't think that. I don't know why we do it, but we just have to. We have to get some of that stress off.
We do. So here's your sign. Get your best girlfriend, book a trip. You'll thank us later.
And if you don't have one, we'll go.
That's right. Call us. Let us know.
Because we can always have fun.
Absolutely. Anywhere we go. So, and that brings me to one last thing before we close out is we have an email account. The Girls Got Goals. So it's Girl Got Goals Podcast. GIRLGOTGOALS podcast @gmail.com. And you can email your comments, questions, concerns, new topics to us. And that would come directly to Kimberly and I so that we can read your questions on air. If you want anonymity, we won't say your name. You can let us know, but we can answer your questions. And we love to hear from you. how the podcast has impacted your life, what you're thinking about for new topics you'd like to hear. Like, we're here for you guys. And again, that's Girl Got Goals podcast at gmail.com. Send us your information.
Yes.
And until next time, just remember, progress isn't perfect.
But you are, so keep growing.
Bye, guys.
Bye.